Hi, Rick.
Hey, good morning, Keith. How are you today?
I'm good, man. You ready to jump into it?
Yes, sir.
Good. This is inspired by one of my colleagues over at the hospital, and his name is Greg. And he gave me permission to kind of like share about this. And the title of this podcast is Uncertainty and Change. And so my friend went through a situation in which he was one of the almost a senior leader. I mean, if not a senior leader, very close to that level. And he had a lot of responsibilities, and a lot of people that he managed. And most recently, this year, there was kind of a reshuffling or reorganization of the area in which he worked. And so he was moved down from this senior level position to below as a manager. And he didn't realize like how attached he was to the title as well as the responsibilities came with it and the meetings that he was a part of, the people that reported to him. He didn't realize how attached he was until they came to him and told him that there was a reorganization. And they also mentioned to him like it was implied that, it wasn't a guarantee that after things were settled or whether or not he would still have a job there after, almost 3 decades.
Wow.
So he went through this thing, and he told me he was very candid in telling me this because a couple months prior, I had given a presentation for graduation, and he was there, and I kind of talked about uncertainty and all those things. And so afterwards, he just told me, "Hey, great presentation. A lot of that really resonated with me." He's always been super kind to me and one of the people that inspired me to go back to graduate school. And so I have deep respect and admiration for Greg. And so he told me, but at the time I didn't know any of this had played out, in the background in terms of his professional career. But he talked about, hey, because it was the first time he's ever heard me speak before. And so he just talked about, hey, that was really inspiring. That was really good. And so I called him yesterday for a meeting about something else. And he just kind of opened up and shared with me, like, hey, here's what was going on. And I really enjoyed your talk, a few months ago. And I went through something similar. And he just felt very comfortable telling me this. And vulnerability, man, that is one way to really, really connect with people on a deep level. And a lot of people are afraid of it because they think it lowers their standing in other people's eyes. No, that's what the ego says. In terms of it actually raises the connection value and level in your relationships when you are open and vulnerable, I think. And I think you agree too, Rick, because we have that kind of relationship. Well, anyway, he talked about that it was depressing for him for a while, and he really struggled. He finished off by saying that Keith, during this process, man, I realized there was some uncertainty, and it was causing me a lot of fear and anxiety. I was losing sleep at night. And, people think that, the opposite of uncertainty is certainty. He said, that's not it. He said, what I discovered is the opposite of uncertainty is presence. I was like, man, I love that. Because when you are in the grip of uncertainty, or no, when uncertainty is present and you're not rooted in presence, it will take you everywhere from despair to anxiety to depression to helplessness and hopelessness. You are suffering. But if you can root yourself in the present moment, you can see that in this moment, everything is fine. Like in this moment, whether I have a title or don't have a title is not an issue. Whether this is considered a demotion or whatever, that's not a problem. There's no problem here. How people think of me and see me because I no longer have that title is not a problem either. And this is something that I went through many years ago, as you know, Rick, when some things occurred in ToBeRe, is that what really people would ask me, are you okay? And I was okay. And the reason I was okay, because at that time I didn't have a practice, but the reason I was okay was because when it came to ToBeRe, one of the rare areas of my life where there was some kind of like enlightenment, when it came to ToBeRe, I never saw myself as ToBeRe. I never saw myself as the owner, the founder, the boss. I never saw myself as that. I saw myself as a servant. And so whether ToBeRe came and went, It's been a good run. I could serve anywhere. And so there was never a breakdown there. And when I got to Mayo and I was, told that they can no longer, pay me. And so, and I offered to be a volunteer. I had no upset there either, because at my core, I'm a servant. And so all of that was really helpful to me. And so just listening to Greg just kind of share about that, just really struck me that the opposite of uncertainty is not certainty, it's presence. And when I'm being present, and again, you have helped me with this, when I'm being present, there are no problems. I am rooted. My mind is still. Like there may be other life situations that I'm dealing with, but when I'm present, my mind is still, and it's the mind that causes the suffering. I mean, me losing, me being demoted, for some people, that could be a problem. For another person, that'd be like, oh my goodness, look what this frees up for me in terms of time and responsibility. Like this could be a gift. I in my former role, I was unable to spend that quality time with loved ones that I really wanted to and said that was important to me. So you can have the same event, but it could be different for for two different people, and that's the same with everything in life. What looks to one person as being unfortunate, unbearable, to another person is an opening, it's an opportunity. And I think that's what presence helps you see. It helps you see openings and opportunities and possibilities, whereas fear of the unknown or being in the grip of uncertainty can do exactly the opposite. But if you choose to see it differently, it can be a blessing. What are your thoughts, Rick?
Oh, that's a great thing. I thank Greg for that insight. Yeah, the opposite of that uncertainty is presence. I would add that it's presence in the moment of now. The idea
Yes.
is that this moment you're coping, you're fine, even though you lost your title or you lost your responsibility, you lost your job. I'm not saying that's Greg's case, but let's say a terrible situation. In that moment, you can look at things that are just perfectly fine and not threatening. You still have your health, you still have your wife, you still have your children, you still have whatever it is. The idea is that I think there are so many things that we look at that we undervalue about what it takes to be happy. And one of the things that we tend to do, I think, is to sort of do an inventory of all the things that are wrong, and then become disheartened or dissatisfied or fearful or insecure or hateful or angry. And if we just could flip that and just say, in this moment, I have the full capability of doing what I like doing, and I'm totally fine. I think that, financially, this is an interesting issue. Financial problems, I don't think ever really go away. If you have a lot of money, you're worried about taxes and you're worried about depreciation and losing it all, or not making the proper investment or whatever. When you have no money, you're worried about getting kicked out on the street and not being able to eat. And then there's everything in between. But the reality is, in the moment that you're having those thoughts, the present moment is just fine.
Yes.
And usually, if we could focus on that, that would make those a lot more accepting and a lot more willing to take the next step. I don't know. It's a hard thing to feel like your life is out of sorts, but I think you have to start with the present moment and focus on all of the things that are in focus, are working well, are okay. And then decide for yourself, really, in this moment, I'm fine. So all those fears that are going to be haunting me are really about stuff that's in the future, stuff that's in the past that I can't control.
Exactly, Rick. You said it well. If you can close this out, I think part of what Greg was going through, excuse me, was his attachment to the title and how people saw him and all those things. And once he let that go, he was fine.
Yeah.
Rick, what did the Buddha say about attachment?
Well, that's the big booby prize, right? The suffering is caused by wanting things to be a certain way. And the more you want, the more you're disappointed, the more you suffer. The way is easy for he who has no preferences, is the Buddhist take on that. And the idea is that whether things are, quote, good or bad are just judgments. They're the same thing. There's no difference.
There's no difference. I love that. That's been so helpful to me. So helpful. Well, Rick, thank you. Thank Greg. I mean, about uncertainty.
Thank you, Greg. Yes.
Yeah. Opposite of uncertainty is not certainty. It's presence. Thank you, Rick. I love you.
I love you, Keith. Take care.